Okay, this is the beginning of part 2 for lab 1. And this is just about breaking programs down into smaller sections so that it's easier to find where things are. Talked before about our program being really short for the first lab. It's only 12 rungs. And I was mentioning that once you get into a real machine, it's thousands or tens of thousands of rungs. Then somebody mentioned to me, which I thought was a really good question, well, how do you find anything? Well, we don't put it all in the main routine like I'm showing here, okay? Just main routine. That's what we did before. If we have a big machine, we're going to break it down into smaller sections, okay? And typically a machine will have what they call stations inside a machine, station 10, station 20, station 30. So we may have, instead of main program, that might be called station 10 and have another program called station 20 and station 30. We don't have something that big, so we're going to stick with main program, but we have a few different things. So let's break it down into different routines. And right here, I'm telling you, we want to make these 3 routines: cycle, pusher 1, and pusher 2. And even in the lab, I'm telling you how to add those, okay? So if we right click on main program, new routine, I'm going to make one called cycle. Again, add new routine. Pusher 1. You can see them getting added in here. And add the last one, pusher 2. Okay? So we have these routines in here, and you can see if I click on one, they're empty. But by default, they will not get called by the PLC. Even if I write a big program inside there, they won't be doing anything if the PLC doesn't know that it needs to run those programs. The only one that knows it has to run right now is main routine. If you notice the icon, it looks a little bit different, and there's actually a little 1 in there. If we right click on main program, go to properties, and go to configuration, you're going to see assigned routines. The main routine happens to be called main routine. It could be any one of these, and if I click that and hit OK, you'll see that one gets pushed up to the top and its little icon changes. That's going to be the one that runs by default. But I'm going to change this back. I'm going to change it to main routine. And this one will run as soon as the main program runs. Okay, so this one's going to run by itself. The other ones, we need to tell the PLC when to run them. So I'm going to go to main routine, and the best function for this, well, the function that we need to use right now is called a JSR, a jump to subroutine. I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do this, and I'm going to show you how one is a lot easier and a lot quicker than the other. So there's this method where we can go at the top. We got to keep clicking over and over and over. Hopefully you can see this up here until I get to program control. Then there's going to be one in here called JSR. And in JSR, we get to double click on here. We get all the subroutines that we have. I'm going to pick cycle. But notice I still have a little red X here. And I have these question marks. Well, these are things I do not need for this type of routine. I do not need to input any kind of tags or variables, and I do not need to return anything. I just need to call it, run that program, and then come back out. So to get rid of these, I'm going to have to double click on it, hit backspace. I'm going to double click on this guy. So I'll highlight the question mark, backspace. One more time, backspace. Oh, didn't work. Okay, now it's fine. Okay, here's the quicker way. Double click on end, just type JSR, hit enter. It's added that instruction. We didn't have to go digging for it up here. We didn't have to keep moving around and looking for it. And I don't have the input and output parameters unless I explicitly add them. So now I'm just going to pick my other thing, pusher 1, double click, JSR, enter. And I'm going to add pusher 2. Okay, that is it for part 2. Just figuring out how to put in different routines and how to call them. Now I'm just going to talk about one more thing here. I'm going to try and download it and we'll see if we get an error or not. I'm going to hit download. And before it downloads, it always checks for errors. Now see, it says canceling download. Now if you didn't notice this, you might say like, oh, hey, the download is done. Well, if I get in the bottom here, and if it was hidden, you can hit on error. So let's put this to auto hide because I noticed some people's were like this. So you can't see anything. If I click on errors, it's going to open up. And if I drag this up, you can see everything that's in there. There's a blue line here. That's the error. Double click on it and it's going to take us to this error, this empty rung. I'm going to click on it, hit delete. I'm going to download. So we don't need to download at part 2, but it's just sometimes you get to a certain point, you want to check that you don't have a bunch of errors and leave all the way to the end and have a million errors and you can't download it. So let's see, it's verifying everything, it's downloading them. And it looks like everything's going fine. It should ask me at the end to go back to remote run. It didn't. So it's actually, this is a thing you should pay attention to. It's in remote program mode. If I'm in remote program mode, the PLC is not running. You're going to have to go here and you're going to have to change it to run mode. Now it's actually going to run your PLC code. We don't have anything yet because all we're doing is calling these empty routines. But if you had the code, it wouldn't actually be running anything at this point. Okay, so that's the end of part 2.